5 years ago, I was in a long-term relationship with a woman for 5 years. Looking back, 5 years seems like a long yet short relationship. After the fourth year, she started talking about marriage. In all fairness, I did talk to her about marriage pretty early on in our relationship and was seriously considering proposing to her one day. But at that time, I had just graduated from uni, couldn't find work, and was poor. I couldn't even see a bright future for myself at this point, so I couldn't bring myself to get married. She told me she'd find work too, but my manly pride got in the way. After marriage, we would eventually have a child, and until I gained the confidence to be able to support both her and our future child, I couldn't marry her. I tried to explain my feelings to her, but we always ended up in a fight. I want to get married because I love you. I want to cherish you and take care of you, so please wait. These arguments eventually led us to break up. We would argue about loving each other, but spin our wheels on the same argument every single time. Eventually, she left me with her words being that she never wanted to see me again. After about 6 months, I got a phone call from her. She was crying and told me she wanted to try again, that she couldn't forget me and still loved me. You might think I'm cold-hearted, but after our nasty breakup, my feelings for her had completely disappeared. I told her I had no intentions of getting back together with her and hung up. 3 days later, I got another call. This time, she told me she wanted to meet me face to face and talk. While we were dating, she used to make all the decisions because I'm an indecisive person. She knows me well, and I guess she thought that she could convince me if we met up in person. I said no, and I hung up. The next call was 2 days later. This being the third time she called, I was feeling pretty fed up. I stuffed my phone under my pillow to get it out of sight and to let it ring out, hopefully to make her think that I wasn't there to pick up. Despite letting it ring out, I'd get another phone call straight after that, over and over and over again. I finally decided to answer it, and when I took my phone, I saw that she had called over 30 times. After this many calls, it just felt like she was doing her best to annoy the shit out of me. I was fully intending to tell her how irritated and pissed off I was when I pushed the answer button.
Why didn't you pick up?
She yelled at me hysterically as soon as I answered. As cowardly as it sounds, her hysteric voice dissipated my annoyance, and all I could think of was to calm her down. I gave her the first excuse that popped into my mind and told her in a gentle voice that I'd forgotten my phone at home and just got back. I asked her what was wrong. It was muffled, so I thought she was crying, but
I remember being able to see the vending machine from your window. Can you still see it?
there's a vending machine on the street below, about 15 meters from my window. Wondering what she was going on about, I peeped outside and my phone slipped out of my hand. In the shadow of the vending machine, my ex was standing there and staring straight at me, laughing with tears streaming down her face. In the 5 years we were together, I'd never seen her face like this. Pretty sure if I had, I would have ended the relationship right then and there. It was pure evil. I quickly closed the curtains. I was so scared that I couldn't sleep at all that night. Feeling the sun coming through the window, I felt a slight glimmer of hope, like I was saved. The crisp morning air and warm sun probably made me feel that way. I peeked through the slit in the curtains, and she wasn't there anymore. Feeling relieved, I opened the curtains fully. And there she was, in a narrow street straight across from my window, sitting and leaning against a utility pole and looking up at my window. When she saw me, she smiled. "Good morning," she mouthed out. Just as quickly as I had opened the curtains, I closed it back up. I thought to myself, this is getting out of hand. I peered out again, making sure she didn't see me, and she was still sitting there, looking up at my window. I had about a week's worth of food. She obviously can't stay there for an entire week without moving, not eating or drinking or going to the bathroom, right? I decided to wait for her to move and use that moment to leave my place and go stay with my friends for a while. I packed my bags so I'd be ready. But she never moved. Maybe she made sure to leave when she knew I was sleeping or something, but every single time I looked, she was there. On the fourth day, she was finally gone. With my heart racing, I grabbed my bags and was about to head to the door when I stopped cold in my tracks. The flap of my postbox was making a weird noise. Thankfully, it only opens 90 degrees, just enough space to push newspapers through. I could see something like a finger poking through, trying to lift the flap up. I couldn't see them, but I was probably staring into her eyes. Hey, let me in. Let's talk. We used to love each other. Come on, let's talk. In my mind's eye, I didn't see the loving girlfriend that I was with for 5 years, but that evil look she had 4 days ago. I ran to my bedroom, jumped into my futon, and just shook in fear. I guess I fell asleep for a while. When I woke up, I quietly got out, and without making any sound, I went to go look at the door. I could see several trails of blood dripping through the slit in the door. The slit opened for a bit, and something got tossed inside. Another trail of blood. As soon as I saw what it was, I called the police. It was a chunk of meat. She was trying to cut herself into small pieces and make her way into my house. After a while, I heard commotion outside. I heard a man yell, "Call the ambulance!" I heard sirens, an increase in commotion, and then a man calling from outside, "Please open the door, it's the police." I really didn't want to, but what choice did I have? My door and the floor was stained red from blood. When I opened the door, my ex wasn't there. She'd already been loaded into the ambulance, and the police made sure they were out of sight before asking me to come to the door. According to the police, she had bitten off her finger. I moved out straight away after this incident. I made sure the new apartment I moved into had post boxes in the lobby and not right at my door. In the beginning, I broke out in a cold sweat every time I opened my curtains, fearing she would be outside. A few months later, I heard from the grapevine that my ex had committed suicide. I felt relieved. I felt guilty about feeling this way, but the feeling of relief was much greater. After a period of time, when I started to feel like all of this was in the distant past, I started dating someone. It was from this time that I started to hear. It always came from the front door. I tried moving, but the sound always followed. I started to get anxiety attacks and ended up breaking up with my girlfriend. And when we broke up, the sound stopped. Again, after a while, as I started thinking that those sounds were all in my head, I started dating another woman. And again, the sound started. Right now, I'm not dating anyone. I probably won't ever get married. I feel like my ex is still sitting at my front door, cutting herself to small pieces so she can come in through the post box.
This is about my brother, who's 4 years younger than me. He was in fourth grade, my older brother was a freshman in high school, and I was in eighth grade. My older brother lived in a dorm, so he was rarely home. I used to go running every morning because I was on the track and field team. One summer day, I woke up early as usual and saw that my brother wasn't in bed. I just thought he was in the bathroom, didn't think much of it, and went outside. Well, there he was, sleeping outside the door. I woke him up and went for my run. Thinking back now, we always lock our door, so he must have opened it himself. After this incident, my brother would disappear from time to time, and we'd always find him in various areas of the house. He didn't go outside anymore, but we'd find him under the desk, under the dining table, next to the bookshelf, etc. I'd completely forgotten about these incidents when my mother mentioned something during New Year's this year. All you boys used to sleepwalk all the time. I don't remember myself ever sleepwalking, and I had no idea that my older brother sleepwalked. But it made me remember something, so I asked my older brother, "Hey, did you ever have a recurring dream about playing hide and seek?" "Actually, yeah. Yeah, I did. When I was in elementary school." "The kid that was asking you to play hide and seek, did he ever ask you to go somewhere?" "What, like, to go to the river?" "Yeah, but I didn't go." "Same. I didn't go either. What did he say to you after?" And we both said it at the same time. "Okay, I'll go with a younger brother then." It was around this time that I stopped dreaming about this boy and playing hide and seek. Next month, it will be 12 years since our younger brother died. 12 years ago during winter, I got back from my morning run and saw an ambulance in front of my house. My mother found my brother in his bed, unresponsive. He was already cold. I don't know if it's because my brother had the same dream we did. I don't know if he followed the boy in the dream to the river, or whether his heart failed him. All I know is that my older brother and I swore we would never tell our parents about what we dreamed about as kids. Have you ever sleepwalked or know anyone who sleepwalks? Do you think a dream could actually lead to someone's death? Tell me your thoughts about this in the comments below. I used to live in a very old wooden apartment complex. It was close to a subway station. Living in cheap places obviously attract those that don't have the best situation in life. There was one elderly neighbor who didn't stop coughing all day. There was a foreign married couple that never stopped fighting. That was where I lived. At that time, I was working part-time and my income was meager. One day, things started to shift around in my room. They were small things at first. For example, one day my trash had been emptied even though I didn't remember doing so. I couldn't think of anyone wanting to steal someone's trash though, so I just thought that I'd forgotten that I'd thrown it out. A few days later, my trash was emptied again. This time, I was sure that someone was coming in and stealing it. I wondered why anyone would want my trash, but I didn't let it bother me too much because, well, it was just trash. Then one day, a pair of my underwear was gone. I didn't have many to begin with, so I noticed straight away. I'd gone to the coin laundry to do some washing, and when I got back, I noticed that the one I was wearing the day before was gone. A few days later, it reappeared back in my room. Something was going on here. The dirty bowl that I left in the kitchen had been washed. I didn't remember ever washing it. One day, when I got home, I thought I heard a noise coming from inside the closet. I opened it, but of course, no one was there. A few days later, I caught a cold and wasn't feeling too well, so I got home a bit earlier than usual. When I opened the door, there was someone there. It was a woman. She was holding a pair of dirty chopsticks that I'd left on the table and was licking them. She saw me. I screamed when I saw her and I ran back out. I asked my neighbor to call the police and they came straight away. I explained to them what was going on and they went into my room to check it out. As I was nervously waiting outside, I heard the woman screaming and then the cops dragging her out. The next day, they asked me to go to the police station, and that's when they told me that the woman was actually living next to me. She was living alone and she had some kind of psychological issue and was actually seeing a doctor for her illness. The apartment was old, so she was able to lift the roof off inside my closet and come and go as she pleased. The woman started it all just out of intrigue at first, but it soon turned into some twisted love for me. The first time I ever saw her was when she was licking my used chopsticks. She had long hair and was really skinny that it creeped me out. The police told me they couldn't keep her long because of her mental illness and suggested it would be best if I moved away. I did as I was told. I couldn't find a place straight away, so I just grabbed the essentials and stayed with a friend until I found a new place. It's been almost a year since that happened, and it was starting to fade a little from my memory when I decided to reorganize my old photo albums. When I was doing so, I came across a photo where that woman had glued a picture of herself next to me.